This is Steam Deck versus the Switch 2 for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. So, on the Steam Deck, with its display, I have the OLED model. It can run at 90 Hz or 90 frames per second, but you can also bump the frame rate up to 120 frames per second docked, but at high settings, this does not seem stable. So generally, I tend to play with VSync on, and as well as using the 60 frames per second option instead with high settings for best looking gameplay. Switch 2 loads extremely fast for its lower frame rate and lower quality settings, of course. So this mode and this model and whatnot, it only runs at 60 FPS or 30 FPS, excuse me. It's pretty shaky in terms of the frame rate just being that low, as well as this quality settings resolution. But obviously, you can see here, compared to the Steam Deck, it is loading much, much faster, mainly because this model is much, much smaller in terms of its quality settings, or it's much lower than the quality settings of the Switch or the Steam Deck. So generally, if you're just looking for a quick way to play and then a portable form factor, I guess the Steam Deck would not be your preferred for speed. But for stability, it just might be. So we'll kind of get into that in a little bit here. While we're waiting here, I'm actually going to go in here and also turn off screen shake, because I hate that. And thankfully, the NASB devs knew that their implementation would be preferred to be off, so they gave us a toggle, unlike other games. So now we're here. Both games here. The one other nice thing currently about the Steam Deck version is you actually can mod the game. So I do have cheap NASB installed, which adds some features. But anyways, we'll do a match real quick. We'll pick the same stage. We'll pick the default Jellyfish Fields. Battle, Jelly. And then I'll just pick a CPU. Do 2 SpongeBobs, sure. I'll do the same thing down here, because we're just worried about the speed of the loading times, because that's what a lot of people severely disliked about the Switch 2. So we'll see, as best of my ability, how the loading screens compare. About the same. I don't know if you guys remember how it was at launch on the Switch 1. But on the launch for the Switch 1, the Nintendo Switch 2, or the Nintendo Switch 1 took like 17 seconds to load. So this is pretty significantly less than the other console, you know, Switch 2 being so much less. So we'll go back real quick, and we'll actually do the same test, but for Squad Strike, because that was a question as well. Let's just go in here, squads. We'll pick Jelly again. SpongeBob. Alright, so now, same test, but Squad Strike. And this is offline, by the way, of course. So, Steam Deck loaded. Switch 2 only a little bit behind. So now, we'll do a quick just run off, and we'll test and see. Pretty instant, I'd say. And keep in mind, this is Squad Strike. So maybe we probably should have loaded different characters, but we'll test that now too, just to see if there's any just difference in having the same character chosen 3 times versus otherwise. Yeah, it looks good. So we'll go to Brawler Select for both of these. That's pretty good. So we'll do SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward. Sure. And we'll kind of do the same thing down here. And now we're ready to go.
3, 2, 1.
So, yeah, still a little bit longer, of course. But now we'll test right off the bat how long do each of these take to load. Yeah, Switch 2 seems to be loading just fine. We'll do that again here for it real quick. Instant, yeah. And we'll do another test just on the Steam Deck to show, yep, this is actually instant. Yeah, so both games, both titles load Squad Strike instantly, no delay. There's just a slightly longer loading time for the Switch 2, loading into a squad battle or Squad Strike mode. But 1v1s seem to be just fine. So I set up one final test, because I know this is a pretty long testing, pretty extensive. But we're going to do a test of 4 characters just on one of the stages here. Food Dream, one of the competitive variants for NASB2. And to see how long it takes for 4 people to load in, just for curiosity's sake. So, pretty quick for Steam Deck. About like 3 seconds in, 4 or 5. So like, it's probably, I'd say, cutting the loading times of NASB2 in just over half, as they were before the initial issues, as NASB2 originally did take like 17 seconds to load on Switch 1, so keep that in mind. And that was before they did a minor performance update. So I'd say, assuming maybe it was around like 12 seconds or 15 seconds, about half is accurate to say in terms of 4-player brawls being shorter loading screens. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about Switch 2 for NASB2. Again, this runs at 30 FPS at a lower resolution scaling, it looks like, in a lower resolution. But it is definitely a very stable 30 FPS, unlike the Switch 1 variant. And if you are okay with 30 FPS, it is more than suitable for a console release. Hoping, though, if possible, there would be a update that unlocks it to 60, because NASB1, if you haven't seen my other video, does, of course, run at 60. Thanks for watching. See you later.